that I got to pray a lot on the mat. Nobody knew it, only me and the Lord. And he began to reveal things in me through those, what I call mat moments, that started over 21 years ago.
Hey y'all, I'm your host, Brooke Kinchin. Welcome to God's Coffee Call, a place where there's always a fresh brewed conversation happening of personal testimony and life experiences. So grab a cup of coffee, pull a chair to the table, and join our conversation. Hey everybody, welcome to God's Coffee Call. I am your host, Brooke Kinchin, and today we have a very special co-host and guest with me. This is a childhood, lifelong friend, Miss April Stevens Hill. And we have been in each other's lives since third, fourth grade?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
And I asked her to join us today because we would not be here doing God's Coffee Call had it not been for Miss April.
Oh.
She is a co-host and founder of the Punch Bowl Diary podcast on Apple, Spotify, just Apple.
It's Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, all the things.
All of those things. She also owns Yoga Studio 90 in Baton Rouge, and now in a new location, St. Francisville. And so I said, I cannot do a season of episodes without you because this whole month we've just taken time to just kind of set the foundation of God's Coffee Call, who we are, how we got here. My mom's been here, my husband's been here, my brother's been here. And I said, I want to finish out this, setting the foundation of who I am with the one person that before anybody even knew I wanted to do a podcast was texting me, you better do it. You got to do it. You can do it. Come on, girl, you can do it. And so it's an honor for me to have you here with me. Thank you.
So, well, right back at you. I'm honored to be here, especially in your precious mama's home. I mean, this family, you have poured into me and helped me be who I am today. I think of y'all all the time. Your mama, your grandparents, your sweet brother. And I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
I am. I see this woman gets up and gets to talking about the Lord, his goodness, his grace, his mercy, his favor, and how we can all have part of it too. And I just want to honor you for carrying the light of our Heavenly Father and giving that reminder and that encouragement to people all over the globe every single day.
Well, it's Jesus for sure. I mean, we were talking before we went live. It's all because of him. And I've always been a talker, and I'm just learning even.
But she didn't get in trouble about the talking like I did.
No.
I got in more trouble with the talking.
We might have got in a little trouble together, but I think that's why we got along so well. Our moms worked together, but also there was just this kindred, this spirit. You know, the spirits know each other, the word says, and there was just something that. And even for a season, we didn't even see each other. Like after we graduated high school.
Well, you went out of the country.
I literally became a missionary and left the country and left the state. And so never saw you again until just a couple years ago. Started following you on your yoga pages. And I think I really reached out around COVID when you had to start doing online stuff because nobody could come to the studio and stuff. And so I just want you to tell a little bit of your success story, because it is a success story of where you are. So you start wherever you want to start. And I'll ask questions.
All right. Well, thank you. Again, I'm so honored to be here. And I fell into this hot yoga business because I was riddled with anxiety. And so because growing up, coming from a divorce, and I did not know at the time, but I learned in my early 20s that I would hold things in my gut, my stomach. So I was always having horrible stomach aches and headaches, but really stomach aches. And in my early 20s, someone said to me, I went to this little small warehouse place, and it's really hot, and the man is not real nice, but he'll he'll coach you through these poses and stretches that leave you feeling amazing, and there's no talking. And so I knew that caught my interest. I got to be quiet. It's going to be hot, and he's not nice. I might be up for this challenge. So
said no one ever. Right. No one ever, but okay.
So I did not grow up like with a bunch of fitness people. I mean, my mama would go to Torrance when I was little to her aerobics classes. And I remember then she was planting seeds in me because she would say, I go to these workout classes because it helps me deal with the stress that she was going through at the time. Her mother, who was really young, was in a nursing home, died very young. So those stressors in areas of tension in her life, she found strength by movement and working out. And I had zero interest in that at that time. But fast forward years later, those seeds that she planted in me brought fruit. And so I was so intrigued and fell in love with the stretches, the quiet, the stillness, that when I showed up to this place, all I needed was a mat. There was nothing complicated. No one was going to talk to me. I didn't need to talk to anybody else. I just followed the simple directions of the person that was teaching. And when I left, I felt incredible. I also figured out after many hours of practice that I got to pray a lot on the mat. Nobody knew it, only me and the Lord. And he began to reveal things in me through those, what I call mat moments, that started over 21 years ago. So I found this in 2001, this type of workout, and I fell in love with it. My husband and I got married. He was transferred. We moved to the Fort Worth area, and I was sad to leave my mom, sad to leave my town, but I was really sad to leave this workout. And so, the owner of the one in Baton Rouge told me what to look for, and I continued to practice wherever we lived. And the Lord continued to reveal to me how important it was that I would be teaching and using this same type of workout really as a ministry. I opened a business in 2010 called Yogalates and ran that for 10 years. And then COVID happened, and I had the opportunity, my agreement, I had a sales and licensing agreement. It was up in 2020, the same year as COVID. As Brooke mentioned earlier, I had to make a decision to go online or I would have had no business left. And I obviously was very committed to the members that were in my town, in my studio. They were desperate also to keep working out, to get that mental release that we all need.
Right, yeah.
And that the Lord has given us all these chemicals to be released when we move our body in and out of poses, when we really begin to challenge our body physically and our mind. And so my husband is really much more of an entrepreneur than I am. I am the muscle behind it, but he was thinking, and he's told me a year before COVID happened, we need to go online, April. You need to take this online. There are so many Americans traveling. They cannot get their workout in. We need to go online. So I took that cue from him and I began to practice. So when the COVID happened, we were able to flip the switch and take our workouts online to our members.
And I think, COVID was a horrible time for millions of people, but at the same time, I watched so much growth happen. I watched churches go online who had never been online before. I watched businesses promote their businesses and connect with people with this tool that the Lord had given us that so many people maybe at that time had kind of been standoffish to. There were lots of these things of like, it's not good. We don't know how it's going to work, things like that. But I watched the Lord open a window, and now looking back to be able to see some of those churches still actively doing things online, seeing businesses still doing things online, you growing your business online because the Lord opened a window and we dared to go through it. And I think that's something that so many people pass over. But like when we really look at it, the Lord will always provide us a moment to do something great if we'll just be paying attention and listening, watching.
He is our way maker. And people will say, how did you do that? How did you do that? Well, I had no choice.
Yeah.
I was pinned up against the wall. My rent my mortgage bank note was due. Entergy did not care that COVID happened.
No.
Okay. They still wanted to get paid. I had to pay my team. I mean, I had all these employees, and I had customers that were paying me every month on auto pay. So I was coming from a place of desperation.
Yeah.
I had to figure it out. And so I was on my knees a lot during it, but my real pain actually came post-COVID, because we were able to meet the needs of our customers, but we also lost almost 70% of our business.
Wow.
And the bank note is still due, energy is still due, but you don't have the level of revenue coming in. And so thankfully we got through COVID, thank you, Jesus. And then I was at a real pivotal point where I was so angry. I was like, Lord, you've helped us build this building. You've helped us build this business, and it is gone. I mean, surely you didn't give me this dream to just rip it away. I mean, have you ever had this happen a time or two?
That's why we're sitting here at God's Coffee Call. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, okay, April, stop wrestling with your emotions. I mean, emotions are great. Feelings are good, but they're not always right. They're not always real. So I remember saying, take off these grave clothes and stand in where he's got you. And I mean, I probably said this so many times. I was like, I'm still in the same place.
Mm-hmm. You were here.
What am I going to do now? And I had this piece of real estate, this building that my husband and I poured everything into. And I thought that was like part of God's plan. Why would I be needing to sell it now? But it was very obvious we needed to sell it. I was going to have to make a very hard decision. And when I tell you I wrestled and wrestled, I was physically ill from hanging on so tight and white knuckling,
right,
that he woke me up at 2:30 in the morning, and I walked out to the couch. I mean, I remember like this was yesterday. I walked out into the living room, not in the best posture to meet my maker. And I was just like, what do you want me to do? And I remember just him so gently saying, I want you to let it go. Mm-hmm. And I was so exhausted that I finally said, okay. And then he said, I want you to tell Roy in the morning. And so like when I met my husband that morning, I said, the Lord told me that we need to sell the building. And he didn't even blink. He said, I'll call so-and-so. So to back up a little bit, I had this tenant. So I had this building. It was hot yoga on this side. I had to rent the other side of my building out to pay for the whole note, right? That tenant is a drug manufacturer. So guess what business was doing really well during COVID?
Right.
Drug manufacturers. Everybody got on drugs.
Yeah.
I mean, we all needed something.
Something.
And so he came to me and he was like, before the Lord had that conversation with me, and he said, look, I am busting at the seams. We're going to have to look for another building. April, would you please consider having a conversation with me about possibly buying the building? And I was like, I'll think about it. Not nice.
No.
And and so when Roy said, I'll make a phone call, he said, that's who he went to call. The Lord positioned us to walk away with a fresh start. He did provide for us exceedingly abundantly more than what I could have imagined. Did it hurt? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it stink? Yeah. But I'm still here.
But that's usually when God does his biggest things is it hurts our flesh, it hurts our feelings, it hurts our emotions. But when we really step back, like you said, and just take it all, strip it all away, and we realize, but he's good, but he's faithful.
He never left me.
And I got through it. And not only did I get through it, I learned so much in the process of it, and I'm so much better for it after the fact of it, which you don't feel when you're in the middle of it. Like,
no,
you don't feel at all when the Lord tells you, hey, step away. Hey, let it go. And you're like, but you been, and we start listening to all these things.
I've been over here doing,
right.
And he was like, yeah, I didn't ask you to do all those 19 things, April. I want you to sit your butt down, be still, and let it go.
Yeah.
Which was the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so, so we sold our building and we moved. So, and let me tell y'all how good he is in the detail.
I hope this is the story that you're fixing to tell.
The building.
with the guy that was there? Okay, yeah, this is my favorite story.
So when I decided, okay, Lord, I hear you, I tell my husband that morning, I get in my car, put my purse down. I'm like, I'm going to drive around and see where I'm going to move. I mean, I'm going to be moving again. And I happened to drive right to the very first piece of property that I wanted to pursue and open when I originally opened Yoga Pilates in 2010. And I drive up, there's a for lease sign. I pull out my phone, call, someone answers. He doesn't just answer, he says, April Hill, good morning. And I was like, okay, is this Mr. So-and-so? He goes, yeah. I said, I see the sign. He goes, uh-huh. I said, I am about to sell my building. I'm looking for this. He goes, I'll meet you there in 10. Are you there now? I'll meet you there in 10 minutes. So he comes over and I said, and I mean, I'm kind of holding my cards close to my chest. I'm not going to just, put it all out there. And I said, I'm looking to move up here. I would love to know if this is available. And he said, it is absolutely available. When do you want to take possession of the building? And I was like,
you're like, I did not leave the house for this.
I mean, it's maybe this has to be done. This has to be done. He goes, I'll do whatever it takes to get you in here.
That's awesome.
And I was like, really? And he goes, absolutely. So I had a previous encounter with this young man in my first studio. He was training to become a professional golf player. And he heard that I trained other athletes. It would help his golf swing. He didn't make it in the PGA. His father passed away and he took over the commercial real estate company. But that previous encounter helped me here. Yeah. And he knew, okay, this girl is legit. She's had a business for over 8 years. This is going to be all right. I want to help her. And it was just my point in sharing those details is how sweet our Father is. He knows the deepest desires of her heart. He knows that we feel embarrassed. We feel nervous. We feel unsure. And he shows up to remind us, I got you. I got this so much better than what you can even imagine.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is called Hind Feet in High Places. And
that sounds wonderful.
Oh, it's amazing. Just a little plug there. Hind's Feet in High Places. And it's the story of this girl, much afraid, who's living in this valley. And the good shepherd is wanting to take her to the mountains to give her hind's feet in high places. And it's just almost kind of like a Lord of the Rings kind of feel, just a trilogy. An allegorical story that I can't think of the word, but he takes her through the valley. He takes her through the forest. He takes her through the desert. He takes her through all these places. But in every spot, she ends up finding a gold nugget. And the good shepherd says, why don't you put that in your pocket? And so she's got a little bag. And as she goes, when she gets to the top of the mountain, and it's the highest peak that she's got to climb now, she's feeling discouraged, and she pulls out those rocks, those gold nuggets, and she remembers the nugget she found in the desert. She remembers the nugget she found in the hard places, in the foggy woods, and she begins to remember, like you said, the goodness of God. How he had led her, how he had pushed her through. And if I can get through the foggy woods where I can't even see him, then I can climb this mountain. And so as you were telling Dad, just the little nuggets of pieces that God put together to, in the end, build such an amazing altar for us to ultimately sacrifice back out to what he's done.
Absolutely. I mean, girl, he has to give me because I am stubborn. Okay. I need all the winks and the butterflies and everything. What I came out of this knowing and learning is that he blesses the obedience.
Yeah.
The obedience was the part that I needed a wake up call in. I've been able to live that out in front of my kids and talk about, you can ask and pray and seek, but it's the action of really saying, okay, I'm going to do it your way, and really doing it and showing up, walking through the mud, holding his hand, hanging on to him instead of the thing.
Yeah.
Is where the blessings come, because, you are so sweet and you'll say, you're doing this and you're doing that. I'm not doing any of it. He is orchestrating all of that. And I am just as sure as I am sitting here, is the reason that I'm seeing growth in other areas is because of that hard decision that I had to make back in 2022.
Yeah.
It's all about if you'll let go of this, then he'll position us for the next
Right.
turn.
There's a verse in the Bible, and we quote it all the time, that says that obedience is better than sacrifice. Like, we could have given the studio over. We could have given that property up. We could have begrudgingly said, okay, we'll do whatever, and had not had that heart of, okay, I'm going to trust you in this. Not having that heart of, God, I know that you're going to be good and that you're going to be faithful in the middle of it, and just gave it away. But how much sweeter is when we give it away, but we give it in obedience, with an obedient heart and a grateful heart, knowing, I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I know that you're good, and I know that you're going to make it work according to what only you can do and make it work.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So tell us about the podcast.
Okay. So we move into the building, and he was working on me a lot. And up until this point, I have 3 children, and my husband travels a lot. So I am running carpool solos, swinging meals, swinging to classes, all the things, I feel like, from one toenail. And he really began to stir in me, take what I've learned and reach out and help other people that are in similar boats that I'm in. So other business women. And just when he put the stirring in my heart, I had coffee with someone, and she said, there's this women's business group that's just getting started, and I think you ought to come next Wednesday. Okay. Say less, girl.
Sure, why
I'm
not?
there. Okay. Assignment. I see it clear as day. So I went, and I sat at a table with other women business owners that had brick and mortar businesses, employees, problems, stresses, concerns, all the things that I was having. And it just turns out I was probably the oldest one in the room. And so he brought me to a place that allowed me to just share pains that I'd walked through and how he helped me navigate those times. And other women said to me, oh my gosh, it's not that you've given me the answer. It just feels good to know that I'm not alone.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he brought me to a place of fellowship. The person that invited all of us to that table is now my co-host with the podcast, The Punch Bowl Diaries. And she and I met in 2021 or 2022. All the years just run together at this point, post 2020. I'm like, it's all kind of,
one of those years we did something
recently. And so her name is Lee Moss, and she is a realtor, a broker of real estate. She has her own brokerage, and she has several different businesses. And we just really hit it off, as I did with all these ladies. Fast forward about a year later, she said, April, I've really had it on my heart to start a podcast. I said, really? Same. I've actually looked into it, but I would be bored to do this by myself. That would not be so fun. And so she said, exactly. I feel the same way. Well, along the way, we knew that we both had some things in common. We love old houses. I told her, because I've lived off, that I am unapologetically Southern. I love my Southern roots. I'm not apologizing for it. As a matter of fact, turns out a lot of people love to talk to us because we're good storytellers.
That we are.
And we make good coffee. Thank you, Miss Judy.
We do.
And good food and all the things. And I just appreciate the Southern things I've learned. I just appreciate, and I'm not saying it's perfect.
Right, no.
But it is a beautiful thing. And she said, oh my gosh, I want to talk about the South. I want to talk about old houses. I like to refurbish old houses. I said, I like to refurbish people's lives.
Oh, there you go.
I think we've got a recipe. And so she was like, so we sat down one day at a table, and we said, what are we going to call it? Lanyap, gumbo, beignets. I was like, no. A punch bowl. Every Southern woman has a punch bowl. I see one right here.
We have one right here. I almost set up the punch bowl just to say.
Every Southern woman has a punch bowl because you've either inherited one, it's been passed down, it's beautiful. And I really set out, I thought, this podcast, I'm going to teach people how to utilize their punch bowls because they're often set aside.
Yeah.
And we have not really done that. But what we have done is we've brought all kinds of different personalities into the punch bowl. We've talked about, redemption. We've talked about infertility. We've talked about businesses. And ultimately, we talk about raising babies and businesses in the South and how we rely on our faith.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was Lee shared an episode. She lost her father recently. And I remember just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, listening to that podcast, laying in my bubble bath after a long day, thinking, wow, this is going to change somebody's life. Like somebody walking, because she was real. She was vulnerable. Like she cried for most of the podcast, but it made it beautiful.
Oh,
because
thank you.
You realize it's not just, hey, let's sit down and record something. We're affecting lives, and we're being real, and we're being authentic to who we are, and we're telling our stories. And we were at a wedding just a couple weeks ago, and the talk of the wedding was the punch. It was a new punch that nobody had ever had. And I'm like, I've never had this before, but it was the talk of the reception.
I love that.
And that's what I thought about with your punch bowl is, it's the talk of things. It's something different, something fresh that maybe some people have never encountered. They get to come and have something authentic, because you never know. Like one day I tuned in, you guys were in a car on the way to see your mama, and y'all were doing your video. And then the next time we're talking about business, but it's this variety, like you said, of Southern culture, of who we are and what we do and how we do life as business women.
Yes.
I don't know how long ago it was, but several months ago, you invited me to the Baton Rouge Women's
Network
retreat. And I was so nervous. I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. I was so nervous because I too was like you, where God, you've not given me all these giftings and these talents to be doing nothing with. And I had started God's Coffee Call in the mornings. It was growing, but I really was at a place where I'm like, I don't know what's next. Like,
oh, but I did.
But she was up to something, and I didn't. I said, I just felt like I'm at a standstill, and like I wasn't. There was just this standing still, but not in a good way. I knew if I stood still, like, it wasn't going to go any further. So I'm praying, and you messaged me and you're like, got to do it. And I'm like, okay. I took off work. I told my bosses, this is what I'm going to do. They were totally supportive. And I got there, and I texted Brandon. In the first 5 minutes of that retreat, I sat at my table and I cried. I don't know. You didn't see that because I sat in the back. But I sat there because I saw women who looked like me, and I saw women who talked like me, and women who were living lives with husbands and kids, doing what I knew I was capable of doing, doing things on a level that I knew that I was going to, but I just felt stuck. And so sitting there all day long, I just sucked in this nugget. Like I probably asked some of the craziest questions. Like one little social media girl's like looking at me like, what are you asking me these questions for? But I was so hungry that I wanted to ask, and I've got all these notes. But it was that day that I decided I can do this. We can do this. And I come home and told Brandon, I'm like, we're buying the lights, we're buying the camera, we're doing this. I've got to do something, or either I'm not going to do anything.
I'm so
it was
proud
that
of you.
moment. And so,
but also
thank you.
at that moment, also leading up to that, I see Brooke, I'm writing a book. I'm doing this. I was like, that is amazing.
Yeah.
And you have done it. And you do show up, and you are obedient. And so if I didn't have other women in my life pouring into me, I wouldn't be here either.
Yeah. And before we started, you said, what's the vision? What do we want to do? A podcast, God's Coffee Call. This is what I want to do. And I told you that I want other people to look at us and go, well, they're doing it. I can do it. Doesn't matter how old we are. Doesn't matter what our families, doesn't matter what my bank account says. It doesn't matter the structure, the 9 to 5 that I have, whatever. I can do it, and I can do something great. And God has created me to do something big and better, and not just stay where they are and stay in the moment of where they are. So
absolutely. And to whoever's listening, if you're thinking, I mean, well, y'all are doing it, I just don't know how to get started. You start with where you are.
Yeah.
You start with what you have. Brooke would text me, I mean, do you have all this stuff? No. We have a laptop. Okay. We bought some microphones, and I'm referring to Lee and I. We bought microphones on Amazon. I think they were like $35 a piece, and that's it. And we even travel with them because I care more about what we're going to talk about, having it always, we pray, we'll have scripture, or we have resources like books and things that have helped us. We like to share it with others, but you start with what you have, and then you just leave the rest up to the Lord.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And he won't disappoint.
No, and he hasn't. Like that's what we did. We started with my phone, and then we've moved we were able to buy the lights and the camera and stuff, but it's been piece by piece, section by section. So not only are you part of your studio that you have now, and you're part of the businesswoman, and you're part of the podcast, but you have a new adventure, just kind of branched off of some of these. So tell us about your next place.
So we have grown into beautiful West Feliciana Parish. And this is such a God thing because I have traveled through West Feliciana Parish for over 20 years to see my parents in Natchez. And the minute I get on Highway 61, my blood pressure comes down. So I'm from leaving that rat race of my city and I get on Highway 61 and I'm like, oh my goodness, Lord, I love this. I am a lover of trees and good lush landscape. Like landscape is a big deal to me. I love the beauty and the moss that we have in the deep south and our big stately oak trees. I just love it. So when I drive through there, it is like nourishing my soul. Again, he knew that. And he sent someone to retreat, the same retreat Brooke was at. And she messaged me in May and she said, I'm really interested in possibly getting certified by you. Can I talk to you about it? And I was like, sure. The first step is fill out this form because I have a form kind of ready to go. And that way, I don't have to waste her time, vice versa. She did exactly that. She sent it to me. She goes, I did the form. Can we talk? I was like, sure. So she met me at my studio and she began to just become very vulnerable with me and told me what was going on in her life, how she thought, I believe our town needs this. It needs you. I was like, all right, well, let's maybe meet next week and I'll come in and look at it. And I'm not kidding you.
Can we pause for a second?
You okay, girl?
I swallowed my coffee the wrong way.
Oh no, do you need water?
Nope. And I was like, you just breathe, Brooke. You can like relax your throat. But there was like, my eyes were like tearing up. Okay. Okay, I'm better now. Go ahead.
So, as I was leaving to go to this coffee appointment to meet her, my husband looked at me and before I walked out the door, he said, I believe this is your opportunity to grow. This is your next studio owner. And what he was referring to is similar to a franchise. We were going to do a sales and licensing agreement. And I remember thinking, that is not how I've been preparing. But you are the head of this household. Okay, I'm going to pray on this as I drive up. I got in the car, just started praying, and I was like, Lord, I'm so confused right now because I did my homework this way. I trust him. So you just have your way, Lord, when we get to the coffee meeting. And he did. And it was so obvious it should have been hers. I was really there to give her vision and to guide her, but she was ready.
Yeah.
And so we opened on September 14th with a team of like 8 people. It's been unbelievable. The first conversation happened mid-May. She decided July 1st, I'm all in. I think it was June. We met in June. By July 1st, we had a contract signed and she opened in September.
That's crazy.
It was crazy. Like, and people that know me real well, they're like, did you see this coming? No. I did visualize. The Lord has given me a vision, but not with a timetable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if you have a vision and you're really praying that it's part of his will, you just keep circling it in prayer.
Yeah. I love it. Man, I just sit and watch you in amazement of just looking at the things that you've done and accomplished and knowing that.
Brooke, stop it.
Well, I mean, seriously, like when you grow up in the
but we both come from a small town,
right? When we come from a small town, there's so few. This is going to sound horrible, that do something with their life. There's so much potential in our little town. There's so many great people we went to school with. And sometimes through life situations and decisions and stuff, you can end up this person that's just living day to day kind of thing. But to see 2 people come out of where we come from and be doing it through the Lord, not through our own strength for sure, but to see us doing the things that we're doing that look a little different than everybody else, that seem a little different, that sound a little different, but knowing that we're affecting others and we're affecting the world and the community and the kingdom and life in general, like that just does my heart good. That's my heart. That's my heart for God's Coffee Call. Is I just want people to come and share their story and affect the people around them and whoever's watching this and whoever just happens to come upon us on YouTube or wherever we end up at, like just stumble across us, that it would be a place that they realize, wow, I was made for more. I mean, I could do so much more than where I'm at now. So, well, thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to do? No?
Well, I would love for you to follow me at April Hill Yoga Studio 90. If you want to sweat, stretch, and let go of any tension or anxiety, or you just want to get in good shape, or you just want to feel better, I would love to have you and meet you on the mat. Thank you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm asking the viewers for y'all to share this podcast, because caring is sharing.
Caring is sharing. We will put your information down at the bottom here. We're going to put it in the description. On Instagram. You're on Instagram, Yoga?
I'm on Instagram at Yoga Studio 90, Yoga Studio 90 SF for St. Francisville, April Hill. I'm also personal. And then the Punch Bowl Diaries podcast.
Which is phenomenal. If you've not watched it, if you've not listened to it, please do it, because
we're not this fancy. No, you won't see me, but you'll hear me.
You will definitely hear her and Lee. And Lee, I was telling you and Lee just match personalities and the energy. You can't listen to Punch Bowl and not smile. And that's what I love. Like, if it's a hard day at work, I'm like, okay, I need some Punch Bowls. Put it on and just listen, because you can tell that you love what you do and that you love what you're talking about, and whatever's happening in the episode, you guys just do it with grace and with joy. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I am so blessed and honored to have you here. If you would, please like us, subscribe, share with your friends, invite somebody, set your little bell to ding whenever we upload a new podcast, a new episode. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, viewers, for being here. Thank you, Miss April, for being here.
Thank you.
Until the next one, I pray that your coffee is strong and that your heart is full. See you next week.